We are in a mood this morning. I'm coming in late because my allergies are back, y'all. Woohoo! Yep. Good old allergies. As you can see outside, it looks like a fantastic day. So why not? Let's just cut to it, shall we? Let's begin the morning. 60 degrees and cloudy outside here in New York City, coming to you live. Good morning, everybody. What's going on, everyone? Good morning. Hi, it's me, the guy with the probably nasally sounding voice this morning, as I'm suffering through again once another bout of allergies. Woo! Allergy time! Gotta love it. What is going on? Star-Lord is in the house. It's been a hot minute. Nice to see you back. Chiming in with the smiley face. Good morning there. Yeah, it is. I just woke up this morning and my eyes were puffy and itchy. My nose you know that feeling you get when half of your face feels clogged, and I'm just like, what happened? It's like something just rammed into me, and I didn't sleep with the window open. I didn't do anything like that. It's just, again, one of those mornings where it's just like my allergies were just like, F you, buddy. You're not going to have a good day today. I'm like, all right, fine. You know what? Screw it. F it. You ain't going to hold me down. I'm still going to do my shit. I'll do it an hour later, but I'm still going to do it. Damn it. I'm telling you. So that's why I am an hour late. So I do apologize. But Star-Lord, it's nice to see you back. Hope you're doing well. How was all your weekends? How was your weekend? Star-Lord, I would love to know. My weekend was a pretty decent one, I would say. As some of you may have seen or were able to catch on Saturday, I did go live on Saturday briefly to kind of make up for missing out on Friday. I used Saturday as my day to not only catch up on streaming and, kind of making sure I made up a stream for all of you, but also to celebrate May the 4th, Star Wars Day. I always enjoy celebrating Star Wars Day, even though, I feel like sometimes there's not a lot of fun things to do. So you have to kind of make it fun yourself. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and stream myself making my very own Star Wars blue milk. So if you want to check that out, you could check it out on the replay, on the demand video there. You can see me trying my best at making my very own blue milk. And for the most part, it turned out okay. I think I've learned some lessons since, and I think the next time I do it, I'm going to make it a little bit better. Not as blue, and maybe do a little bit something different as far as the taste is concerned. Because my whole thing about the whole blue milk situation was that, you had this company called True Moo that came out there with their very own version of blue milk, an official commercialized release of blue milk, and you couldn't find it anywhere. At least I couldn't. It was just nowhere to be found. And I am so sick and tired of these like limited edition food releases. It's just ridiculous, right? So I was like, F you, I'm going to make my own. And I did. And I think for the most part, it turned out good. So I hope I gave some motivation for a lot of you out there to kind of make your own blue milk yourself without depending on corporate releases and limited releases that you'll never be able to find whenever you try to. Plus, it was like, it was Star Wars weekend. So the thing about Star Wars weekend, everyone wants to partake, right? So I'm pretty sure that also played to the fact that you couldn't find this product anywhere. So I streamed doing that, and we talked about some news and all that. And then afterwards, I watched, because for Star Wars Day they released, what is this? The Tales of the Empire, this new series of mini animated shorts. They did something like this for the Jedi, Tales of the Jedi, which I really enjoyed. I thought that was done really well. I thought the Ahsoka stuff was cool, but the one thing I loved was the Count Dooku storylines and kind of how it showed him turning into the dark side, going into the dark side, and kind of how that all came about, right? So I really, really enjoyed that storyline. And the Ahsoka stuff was pretty cool too. You get to see a young Ahsoka doing her thing and all that. So I'm been working so tired. Hey, I get it. You know, as long as you have a moment to catch up on some rest and all that, I know that feeling, especially when I used to work in corporate America, especially in advertising. I was tired all the time. So I hope you're able to catch up on some rest there. Sebastian 420 BBC, whatever that means. Thank you for your comment. Again, just a heads up for everyone. I am also live on Shorts. So if you, depending on how you want to view this thing, if you want to view it on the traditional format, you can find it there on the channel. If you love the vertical format, then you could find it as well here on the channel as you're looking at this stuff. So I watched this Tales of the Empire, and it follows the same thing, 2 storylines, 3 episodes each storyline. One storyline was focused on who's that? Elsbeth, right? Tales of. Let me just pull this up so I can know exactly what I'm talking about here. Morgan Elsbeth, right? Morgan Elsbeth, we were introduced to her basically in The Mandalorian. At least I would say, with those of you who are not huge readers of comic books or the books, if you were just watching or following along the storyline of Star Wars through the movies and the Disney Plus shows and the cartoons and all those things, we were introduced to Morgan Elsbeth kind of on TV, right? In recent iterations, we got to see her in the Ahsoka series, kind of dealing with Thrawn and all that. And we kind of learned her backstory a bit, how she came about. We saw a very young Morgan and how she came about teaming up with the Empire, the first time she met Thrawn, the first time she took over that village, and kind of the reign that she had on this village for a while, and how that affected the people there. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was really interesting. But to be honest with you, I didn't really care much about her character. I mean, I think she's a cool character, and I love the actress too. The actress is fantastic and phenomenal. I believe she is the cousin of Bruce Lee or something like that, some sort of relative of Bruce Lee. So I thought she was pretty cool. But the character herself, I was not really a huge fan of, or it just wasn't a character that really stood out to me, really. But seeing the animated kind of 3 episodes that we got, her little backstory, I am a huge fan of Thrawn himself. I love Thrawn. So seeing Thrawn show up in anything, I'm a huge fan of. And seeing Thrawn and her interact for the very first time and how they kind of teamed up, you could see how that relationship was formed. I thought that was pretty cool. So we got that for the first half. And the second half, we were introduced to a backstory for a Jedi, Barriss Offee. I never heard of Barriss Offee. And I was like, who is this, right? So I did some digging as I was watching the animated shorts. Of course, I paused while I was doing my research and all that. And it turns out that this is yet another small character from the prequels. Her Jedi Master, the one who kind of was tutoring her and mentoring her, I believe the name of the master was, oh, what was that name again? Um, Hold on, let me pull this up here. Give me 1 second, y'all, because I remember looking this up and I was like, oh, this is so fascinating. Okay, Barris Ophi. So hold on here. And again, I do apologize if I'm sounding so nasally this morning. Again, my allergies are just kicking my ass all the way from here to Timbuktu. Um, yeah, Barris was the young Padawan of Jedi Master Luminara Unduli. Now, Luminara Unduli, you could see her in the prequel movies. If you remember that arena scene on, I believe it was Genosha, is that the planet that they were on, where they were basically planning to execute Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan, right? This is the planet with all those flying guys and everything, the bugs. And you saw, like, in the grandstands, you had Dooku kind of overseeing everything. And this was like the famous fight scene where Mace Windu killed Jango Fett, and Boba Fett saw it, with the whole chopping of the heads off and the head off and everything. This was like that big, crazy battle where we saw this huge amount of Jedi versus the clone army. So this was when the whole Clone Wars really started. And Yoda came in to kind of save everyone at the end and all that. So if you paid attention to some of the Jedi that showed up during that portion, you would see that this Jedi Master, Luminara Unduli, was one of them. So this story kind of followed her Padawan apprentice, kind of her starts as a youngling and her training. And then she had some questions about the Jedi Order, something that there was like a conflict. So she, what was this? She left, right? And then she had some dark side tendencies. So she was eventually picked up by the Empire. And she then was turned into an Inquisitor. She was trained to be an Inquisitor and work with Darth Vader. And what was really cool is that you saw this set of Inquisitors at the time. And one of the Inquisitors was the guy that fought Ahsoka in Tales of the Jedi. I think it was her last episode of that series. So I thought that was really cool how that kind of tied into everything like that. But then she also didn't agree with how the Inquisitors went about dealing with people and dealing with, society. They were, they reigned through terror and fear. So what she eventually did is that she also broke away from that too. And she kind of went on her own in hiding, and she became like a medical healer or a shaman or something like that. And then the one person with the Inquisitors that was, I guess, her mentor in a way, showed up to find her. And then that's when they kind of had their kind of battle and all that. So I thought, again, for someone that I had no idea who she was, who this character was, learning more about her through the animated shorts, I found it to be extremely fascinating. Extremely, extremely fascinating. So I thought at least her storyline, the 3 episodes that we got, were fantastic. So for me, that saved the series a little bit because, again, like, Morgan Elsbeth is cool and all, but I really couldn't care less about her character after what I've seen from, the Ahsoka series, her first time she showed up in live action on The Mandalorian. So for the most part, I thought I got what I needed to get during those moments. But seeing her, in animated form and getting more of her backstory, I thought, okay, it's kind of cool, but really I didn't care. But it was really this storyline about, Barris Ophi that I found really fascinating. And again, it just shows you the amount of love that Dave Filoni has for the prequels. He constantly keeps bringing back characters from the prequels, putting more attention to the prequels. He loves staying within that realm of the Clone Wars. You know, again, this is where he started his career at, right? This is how he started his Star Wars history, writing for that stuff. And you know, we already know he loves Ahsoka as a character, the character that he created. He just loves that whole part of the lore of Star Wars. So he's constantly bringing these characters back from then and introducing it to us for the first time. Mainly, I think, for a newer generation of people. I think for older generational folks like myself, I could find it interesting and cool. But like I said, the whole Elsbeth thing, I didn't, you know. So I think for the most part, the series was done really well. I do love these one-offs that they do. It kind of gives us some of the backstory that for some of us, we've been looking for a lot of these characters. I wish they could do something cool for Thrawn. Because again, if you haven't read any of the books, a lot of people didn't really know much about Thrawn until he showed up in animated form. And even then, we don't have a lot of his own backstory. It was also very cool to see him pop up in live action for the Ahsoka series, but we never really got the backstory that a lot of us kind of knew about him going into these series, reading the books and all. And even that, a lot of the lore that we were introduced to for him was not fully transferred over to the current existing canon, right? So I wish they could do something like that for him to kind of give more of a backstory for his character, because I do find his character to be very interesting and fascinating. And I think for the most part, he's probably outside of like Vader and Palpatine, he's probably one of the best quote unquote villains on the Empire side that we've ever gotten in Star Wars. You could put him up there with also Grand Moff Tarkin and all that. You know, these are like the menacing protagonists within the story of Star Wars. So it'll be nice if we kind of got more shine for him. But yeah, for the most part, I thought the series was okay. It was a nice thing to kind of watch and enjoy and not have such a huge time commitment either. Because all of these shorts, most of them were like 17 minutes, 15 minutes. 20 minutes, you know, so it was a nice kind of breeze to like watch all those things. So yeah, so that's what I did on Saturday, you know, to kind of celebrate Star Wars. I thought I was going to do more, but I really didn't do that much after that. I didn't have a chance to go out into theaters to watch the re-release of The Phantom Menace, but it sure sounds like a lot of people did. A lot of people did, and it's fascinating to see how well it did at the box office this past weekend, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. AKB Mobile in the house. That is very interesting, Laura. Thank you for this. Oh yeah, of course. Again, you know, it's one of these things where, you know, as I'm watching it, sometimes these questions pop up. I'm like, wait a minute, who is this? Why should I care? So I do my quick kind of search and all that, and that's what I found out. And I was like, oh wow, that's very fascinating. And again, a reminder to me that Filoni, he loves the prequels, man. You know, but like I said, a lot of people do. And that was my main point when on Saturday I talked about this conversation that I had with a friend on Facebook about new Star Wars, right? The Star Wars that we're getting is not the Star Wars that we grew up watching. And maybe that's just a sign for us saying that it's not supposed to be for us anymore. You know, maybe this is still catered to a younger generation. And if we dig it, we dig it. And if we don't, we don't. But that's okay, because there are people who are going to be watching it who do dig it. And a great example of that was the prequels. You know, when I watched it, and a lot of us, when we watched it, I think most of us were kind of confused and we're wondering, what is this? This is not what I was expecting from my Star Wars. But guess what? There's a generation out there who grew up with this being their Star Wars. This is their Star Wars that they remember. This is maybe the first Star Wars that they've watched. And there's a huge support for this type of Star Wars that they got. And you could see it when you go to the conventions, when you see anything released that is prequel related, people go nuts for it. And you're going to get the same type of reaction 5 years later from now, 10 years later from now, when people are celebrating the anniversaries of the Obi-Wan series, the Mandalorian, you know, the Book of Boba Fett, even though that was trash, in my opinion. They're going to be people who loved it, and they're going to be singing the praises for it all, you know. And that's just something that we're going to have to accept as a fan base. They're not always going to have something that we're going to love and enjoy, but there's going to have something that other people will love and enjoy, right? We'll have our parts in the fandom, they'll have theirs, you know, and that's just how it is. You know, there's no right or wrong here, you know. So if anything, the box office this past weekend basically showed us that that is truly the case. So with all that being said, we might as well go on into it and talk about the weekend box office breakdown. Woo! As my voice cracks. Box office. Weekend box office. Who came on top? Who fell to the bottom? We'll talk about numbers. Numbers. Money we'll never see. Alright. Enough of that. Alright, so this past weekend, there were 2 new releases that came out this weekend. One was Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's The Fall Guy. The other one is another brand new horror film from Sony Pictures, Taro, featuring that dude from the Spider-Man movies, Bartholomew, you know, the Pacific Islander guy. You know who I'm talking about. My mind is just all over the place right now. Oh man. Before we get into that, Star-Lord, George Lucas did a good job with the prequels, with the technology that he had. If he made it again, they would be incredible. Yes and no. The thing with George Lucas is that he's just never happy with his stuff, and he's always trying to find ways to make it better. And sometimes things are best left untouched. You know, like I always said, like I appreciate the feel of wanting to improve on the original trilogy, but there was a lot of stuff that was added that was very unnecessary. Yes, I agree the technology was great at the time for the prequels, but it was also overused. It was also very overused. Not everything had to be green screen. And again, I'll just never forget. And this was me really trying my hardest to enjoy the prequels when they came out. And I watched all the backstory stuff. I watched all the documentaries, the behind the scenes commentary stuff that we got like on the DVDs. And I'll just never forget seeing him on the storyboard as the storyboards are laid out. And he has these markers, right? I believe green was VFX, yellow was practical, and I just saw him go ham with green. Just, oh, VFX here, VFX here. Yeah, we're going to do green screen here, green screen there. And basically, it was a collage of green. And everyone around him was just like, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we can do that. Bah, bah, bah. You know, it was all, he was just surrounded by nothing but yes men. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of the charm from the original trilogy was kind of left out of the prequels, you know, because everything was so CG. But I'll never, ever take anything away from Lucas when it comes to technology, because again, if it wasn't for him, ILM would have never been created. You know, THX would have never been created. So there's a lot of things that he did that really, really helped with the industry moving forward. But I think when it came to his own properties, he kind of got too lost in his own shit, to be honest with you. And he should have never been the main director in all 3 of them. You know, he was never the main director in the original trilogy. He only directed the first one. So I just hope, you know, he's made it very clear that he doesn't have anything to do with the Star Wars anymore. Even though he does find his way on set, he gets invited by him and Filoni are like best buds. I mean, that talk about master and apprentice. That's a perfect in real life situation where Lucas was the master, Filoni was the apprentice, and now it's like, the apprentice becomes the master and all that. So, and they always have that bond together. So we'll see what happens with Star Wars moving forward. But that was just my whole gripe with the whole prequel stuff back in the day. The Jedi Temple lore, that kind of past was rich. I agree. That is very true. Going into the Jedi, it would be, his commentary for A New Hope, he mentions how old everything has become, like how Russ in there. Yeah. Yes, that's true. And I understand that, and I totally agree with that too. It gave it a lived-in feeling, which was a very nice touch. That's why I kind of question what happened in the new sequels. Why that was kind of, we got some of that, but then we also didn't get some of that. I don't know. It was just the continuity is kind of weird in certain cases. But that's just how it is. But let's talk about this weekend box office here. So let me go ahead and switch my screen here. So as you could see, The Fall Guy came in number 1. I'm not surprised there, pulling in 28.5 million. Fall Guy is the movie that everyone's saying is kicking off the summer movie blockbuster season, right? And I think a lot of analysts and even studios, the studio Universal, may be a little bit disappointed with this outcome. I think I predicted that it was going to do 25 to 30 million. And I said if it did more than that, that's great for them. So I guess I'm within that same ballpark here with 28.5 million for The Fall Guy. Let's see here. My connection isn't private. What are you talking about? I think they're having some issues with their website here. But worldwide, the movie has done 65.4 million, which is not great. But again, I don't know what countries that this movie has come out in just yet. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of legs this movie has moving forward. This week alone, we already have the new sequel to Planet of the Apes with what's that, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, coming out this week. So that's definitely going to eat into a lot of the box office from The Fall Guy. Oh no, what happened? I just lost the site. Sorry. Like I said, I feel like I am definitely all over the place this morning. So we'll see what happens moving forward with The Fall Guy. Again, doesn't seem like a lot of people were gearing up to go watch it, even though it's a very fun movie. In my opinion, it is a fun watch. It is an exciting roller coaster of a ride from beginning to end. I think the chemistry between Gosling and Emily Blunt is fantastic. Gosling brings that same type of energy from Barbie into this one. And the stunts, which is why you watch this thing, is fantastic. I mean, they have some action scenes that last a very long time with multiple things happening at once that they kind of stitch together in the editing. So it's really well done. A great little tribute and homage to stunt people out there. And yes, it does kind of, in a way, throw back to the original TV series, which a lot of people don't realize that this is based off of. So I'll leave it at that. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on The Fall Guy, definitely watch the episode from last week where I talk about it. And I'm still planning to clip that out too. So if you want to stay tuned for that, check it out. Another Planet of the Apes. Yes, there is another. This time we are way in the future where it is the humans that are now being hunted and kind of are in hiding from the apes. So if you think about like the original Planet of the Apes TV series, if you remember from back in the day, if you watched any of those reruns, remember how the main focus was really on the apes and how the humans were like kind of the bad guys and the ones being hunted and who are in hiding. That's where we are now. So now we're telling that story. The last three movies that we got were showing how the apes kind of took it on their own to kind of build their own, society and their rise, right? So now it's kind of like their reign. But you're gonna see some similarities, at least based on the trailers that we got. That since this is so far in the future, this is, we are dealing without a Caesar here, but we do see that Caesar's legacy carried on, right? So Mark Wahlberg's Planet of the Apes, where we have the Lincoln Memorial as a giant ape now in the statue. That was really funny. That was hilarious. I also loved when, what was it? Was it Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? One of the Kevin Smith movies where they kind of made fun of it. That ending, I thought it was really, really funny. Yeah, so that's definitely gonna eat away at some of the box office this week. But let's talk about the main surprise of the weekend, and that is the re-release of Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace, and how it beat out challengers to land on the number 2 spot, pulling in $8 million this past weekend domestically. It's the 25th anniversary, and as we're seeing, and as I've discussed previously, a lot of these studios are doing their best to bring butts back into theaters and back into seats. So as a lot of their IPs and their movies are celebrating anniversaries, they're taking those times to kind of bring them back into theaters in hopes to bring people back and watch them on the big screen. I talked about last week, The Lord of the Rings, that they're going to do this 3-day event where each day they're going to release Peter Jackson's movies into theaters to celebrate their kind of anniversary. Right now, Sony, every Monday for, I guess, a month or 2 months, they're re-releasing each of the old Spider-Man movies into theaters, right? The Mummy celebrated its 25th anniversary, so they released that into theaters. Last week, I talked about watching Alien, celebrating its 45th anniversary, that coming back into theaters for that. But none of them have done this well that it pushed them into the top 5, for weekend box office. Let's look at the previous weekends, right? And I don't know what's going on with their site. And this is getting kind of annoying. But if you look at the previous weekend, right? Let's scroll down the list. Here we go. Alien, re-release in theaters for a week. It only did that opening weekend 1.5 million, right? The Mummy, 1 million to celebrate its anniversary, to have it re-released in theaters, right? And every time, and the Spider-Man movies you can't really judge because that's just a 1-day event, right? And this, the Mummy, Alien, those are weekly runs, right? So meaning it's going to be in theaters for a full week before it leaves. So if you look at how those performed, obviously it didn't do that well, right? But you look at this weekend, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, $8 million domestically. Yeah, Shrek 2 was also another anniversary release that they had. And let's see, how well did that do here? Shrek 2. I mean, just 163,000. I think it came out the weekend before that. Let's see, previous chart. Let's see here, Shrek 2. Yeah, Shrek 2. 500,000. So Shrek 2 had like a month run, I think. 1.4 million when it first came out. Again, I think that's another way to try to get families into seats, into the theaters. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of this for this year. There's a lot of talk about re-releases coming back into theaters, having people kind of hopefully go back to theaters to watch these movies. But so far, out of all of these re-releases, Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, has performed the best. Now, what does this mean? I think a lot of it has to do with timing. It's perfect timing. Because, again, May 4th was on Saturday. Star Wars Day. The official Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you, was on Saturday. So I'm sure a lot of people to celebrate went to the theaters in groups, probably dressed up to watch Star Wars Episode 1 to celebrate the day. Plus, the following day, May 5th, is supposedly like Revenge of the Fifth, right? So it's like a continuation of Star Wars Day. It's not really official, but a lot of fans have dubbed it that. So I'm sure a lot of people who probably didn't make it to Phantom Menace on Saturday decided to make it to Phantom Menace on Sunday, right? I also think because it's the 25th anniversary, what I alluded to earlier, you do have that fan base that grew up watching that as adults now returning to theaters to relive that experience again in the theaters to watch this. Now, I don't know if they did any kind of remastering to it, if they kind of helped out with some of the 4K stuff to make it display better during for an IMAX showing or for, RPX or any of those premium theater experiences, right? I don't know if they redid any of that stuff to kind of make it look better. But the fact that people came out to support this is phenomenal. And it was, you could see here, 2,700 theaters across the nation. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's crazy what kind of a performance that this thing did. Now, let's say, I don't know, if we got a re-release to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Clone Wars, if that's going to pull out the same amount of people, it has to all do with timing. If they can get the timing right, where it kind of ties into another May 4th weekend or whatever, then I could foresee another situation like this happening. But I do think this is like one of those rare occasions where the timing just all worked out perfectly for this movie. Star Wars Day, it's a weekend, 25th anniversary, younger generation loving this now as adults, 25 years later, watching it, maybe trying to introduce it for the first time to their kids and maybe their nephews and nieces. Perfect storm altogether, right? So very, very amazing to see how well this did in the theaters. Really amazing to see. So I didn't know they re-released them this much. Yeah, a lot of these movies are getting so many re-releases these days. It's crazy. And it's going to continue. Because I think one of the things that they discussed at CinemaCon, the past CinemaCon that happened, I think last month, was a strategy to bring people into theaters. And a lot of that strategy involved re-releasing movies in theaters to celebrate their anniversaries. And the one thing I said before is that if you look at 1984, there are a lot of big movies from 84 that are now celebrating their anniversaries this year. So you're going to see a lot of those movies come back to the theaters. Same thing if you look at 1994, 2004, right? Yeah, there were a lot of really stapled movies that came out during those times. So you're going to see like a huge push from theaters in seeing what they could do to release these movies at that time. Hi, what's happening? What's going on, Nelly Ray? Is my stream paused? Hold on. Let's see. How's the stream looking to you guys? Is everything looking okay for you guys? Let me know in the chat. It looks like it's going fine for me on my end. Well, Nelly Ray, if you can hear me and see me, right now I'm just talking about the weekend box office and the performance of the movies that came out this weekend, especially the phenomenon behind Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and how well it did over the weekend. But thank you for your comment. Okay, in normal size stream. Oh, okay. It looks like it's fine everywhere. All right, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want re-releases of movies that came out based on the decade. So like decade defining movies like that. Imperator Danny, thank you. Stream is fine. I appreciate that. based on the decade. Yeah, so like decade defining movies. Yeah, I could see that. What about the Transformers movies? So Transformers is celebrating, what is it, 40th anniversary, or is it 45th? I think it's 45th. But it's the 45th anniversary of the cartoon, the animated cartoon, right? The TV series. So what they're doing is that they're releasing the first 4 episodes of the cartoon in theaters. And I think this is the first time that they're doing that. So that is the way that they are celebrating their anniversary, which is an interesting way to do it too, because when you think of the cartoon series, like it's fun to watch, but I don't know if I would love watching the episodes in the theater. I don't know. But maybe a lot of people would love to do that, you know. But I think the main Transformers, the movie, that came out in '86, if I'm correct, in assuming that Transformers movie, yeah, 1986. So that's going to be celebrating its 45th anniversary in a couple of years from now. So I guarantee you're going to be seeing a re-release of that into theaters for sure. Imperator Danny, not sure about the quality. It would look very dated. Yeah, it would. Yeah, especially since it's going to be cropped in the 4:3 aspect ratio, right? Especially seeing that on the big screen, that's going to look very weird. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's just going to be fun, maybe to get a group of people to go out there and watch it in the theaters to celebrate that. You know, maybe get your friends together, or maybe introduce it to a younger generation who probably never watched any episode of the original cartoon. You know, the Michael Bay Transformers movie. Let's see, when did that come out? That came out. Let's see. When did that come out? That came out in 2007. So 2007. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. We're going to be celebrating its anniversary in a couple years for that one. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see the reception when that happens. What did you think about the Michael Bay Transformers movies? All right. The first one that came out, I thought was very decent. I really thought it was decent. I had to kind of get used to the fact, and hold on, let me just switch to solo cam here. I had to kind of get used to the fact that this is not going to be the Transformers I grew up watching, but at the very least, I was hoping that the spirit was going to be there, right? And I think for the most part, it was. You know, I didn't really care much about the comedy. There was a little bit too much humor in it. Like the whole thing with Optimus kind of like sneaking around the back of the house and hiding from the parents and all that. I think that was a little cringe to me. And then the rest of the series just fell off for me. Like it just went downhill from there. I didn't enjoy the second one, the third one. I don't even remember much of it, to be honest with you. And, you know, if there are people who love it, that's great. But for me personally, I was very disappointed. And for the most part, I felt like I was just watching. It's like my brain just became numb watching these movies. And I guess there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason for that. I didn't start liking the live action Transformers movies until Bumblebee came out. I thought Bumblebee, for me, was really well done and a nice throwback to the original spirit of the 80s cartoons. I thought Haley Stanfield was great. I love that relationship that she had with Bumblebee. Oh yeah, Wahlberg was in the Transformers movies, right? Wasn't he the one where he was like kind of dodging everything in slow motion, and they had all of these like cross promotional stuff popping on the screen, right? What a hot mess that was. But Bumblebee was a lot of fun, even though I thought John Cena was acting in a very different movie. I don't think he was in the same movie as everybody else. And then with the one after that, the Rise of the Beast, or the Beast Wars version, I didn't grow up with the Beast Wars, so I didn't have any ties to it. But I was, humble brag, I got to see the New York premiere of it. So I was in a crowd that was really huge fan base for that era. Everyone went nuts in the theater watching this movie, especially towards the end when you saw, the Autobots teaming up with the Beasts, when they had that huge team up and battle at the end. Everyone was going nuts in the theater. When Anthony Ramos had the suit, and when it, kind of just like what happened in Transformers the movie, I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But everyone's just like, oh my God, what the fuck? This is great. The guy next to me just couldn't shut up. The dude was just going apeshit over everything. And then of course at the end, where they kind of hinted at the team up of G.I. Joe and Transformers, the whole theater lost their freaking minds, right? And I laughed. I was like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. All right, I get it. So it was all right. It was all right, But everyone, again, it's generational, right? People from different generations will have different takes on these movies. Imperator, you said the first three were okay. After that, it fell off the cliff for you. Yeah, well, it happens. So, it is what it is. So your neighbor went apeshit. Hell yeah, that's right. Pun intended. Yeah, he went apeshit. Yeah, he got to a point where every time he kept standing up, going nuts, and every little thing was like, let's go, let's go. All right, so he went. Good soundtrack in the Wahlberg Transformers. I have to go back. I didn't really think about it. Exactly what I was thinking. Get the crew to have a few drinks before, watch the episodes in theaters to chill. Yeah, for the episode releases, yeah, definitely. Screw new movies. I want that old theater experience. You know what I miss about the old theater experience? I miss the old bumpers that they used to have. For some reason, in my mind, what keeps popping up is, thank you for coming to Lowe's. Sit back and relax. Enjoy the show. And I don't know if you had a Lowe's theater in your area where you grew up, but I did. And I loved every time that bumper came up right before the movie started. I thought The Rise of the Beast was extremely mid. Yeah, I won't disagree with that. I really won't. But again, there are a lot of people who would disagree with that. If I knew the homeboy sitting next to me who was there with his girlfriend, and I could tell the girlfriend didn't care much about the movie, but he was losing his mind over it. So if I had a chance to talk to this guy and bring him up on here, he would probably be like, oh, you're wrong, bro. Man, that movie was great. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. The one thing I really hated about Rise of the Beast was freaking what's his name? The guy who played Mirage. Shit. He's a comedian, the guy from SNL before. I forgot. Anyway, I thought he was a little bit too much. He wasn't playing Mirage. He was playing himself. And the whole relationship and buddy relationship he had with Anthony Ramos, I thought was a little bit of a stretch. So your theory of the series reaching the fans that appreciated it during their introductions of the genre. Yes. Theaters were dark. Also, I think nowadays they're too bright. Well, yeah, that has a lot to do with safety concerns too. If we were to go back to how the theaters were lit back in the day, the more so you'll see people using their cell phone lights, which bother the shit out of me when they're walking into theaters. Imperator Danny, like for example, the last night, the amount of time they spent highlighting that Merlin was a drunken alcoholic was oh my God, you just reminded me about that. I totally forgot about that moment. Oh wow, you're right. Oh man, yeah, I have no idea what they were doing with that. That was, yeah, that was weird. Let's see. I haven't been to them since Shoot Me Please. Oh, Star-Lord, I remember your story. Yep, I remember that for sure. Star Wars was a TV series generation or two behind RG1 and G2, so your theory makes sense. Well, thank you. Again, that's just my theory. Again, everyone has their own opinions about things. R.I.P. Hated last night. Was trash. Look, I don't have it. Well, I obviously didn't like it because I don't even remember it. And I remember the minute Imperator Danny mentioned that whole Merlin thing, I was just like, oh my God. It's like, you have those lost memories buried way behind your brain. And when you hear about something, it kind of like triggers like a trauma. Now I remember it. So thank you for that. Great conversations, y'all. Yeah, again, thank you for chiming in. This is great talk here. Going back to the weekend box office chart here, if you will permit me to do so. So yeah, Star Wars Phantom Menace came in second, dropping to third from first from last week. You have Challengers, the movie starring Zendaya. They're $7.6 million domestically, 29.4 domestically overall. Again, I never expected this movie to be that big. Although I do feel that, or I thought that more of the Zendaya supporters and fans would go out and support this movie when it came out. And I think maybe they did, but word of mouth or whatever just didn't transfer over, and a lot of people just stopped going to see it. Maybe they were just not interested anymore. Plus, I also do think, and I hate to say this, it is a topic that is kind of not so openly accepted by a lot of people out there. So I think the topic can be quote unquote controversial in a way. But it is what it is. I love the movie. I thought it was well done. Luca Guadagnino still is a great director, and he definitely deserves praises for this movie. And it was just a well done, executed movie from beginning to end. Taro, the new horror movie I mentioned before with the Bartolin kid from the Spider-Man movies, is debuted in fourth, 6.5 million. Godzilla Kong, New Empire, dropped from third to fifth, pulling in 4.5 million. 188 million domestically. Overall, worldwide, we're at 546.9 million. So we broke the $500 million mark. It is doing well as a franchise, and it's doing well as a movie, but I never thought this movie was going to do $1 billion. But it's still going to go strong, and we're still going to get more Godzilla Kong type movies here from America. Civil War, the A24 Alex Garland movie, dropped from fourth to fifth, 3.5 million, 62 million overall. Unsung Hero, the faith-based movie from Lionsgate, dropped from second to seventh, 3 million. Kung Fu Panda 4, the only family-friendly animated film out there that is new, dropped from 7th to 8th, did 2.4 million over the weekend, 188.3 million domestically. Worldwide, look at that, 520 million. Holy moly. This is a franchise to reckon with. It is going to be around for a very, very long time. Abigail, the other horror movie that's out, 2.3 million, dropped from 5th to 9th, 22.7 million overall domestically. And to round out the top 10, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, 1.8 million, 109.9 million domestically. Worldwide, 195.1 million. And you all know my thoughts on the whole Ghostbusters franchise. I don't think this is a good performing. This movie's not performing well. Let's just put it out there. It is troubling, I think, for the franchise and for the property. I don't know, or I cannot think of a way to justify them doing another movie anytime soon. I think from here on out, they should consider things smaller and quite possibly maybe move into a TV series format for something like this. Again, we don't know what's happening with Paramount Plus, and I don't know if Sony is still in the game as far as buying them or merging with them. But if that does happen, then that will be the perfect transition for Ghostbusters to make their debut as a series on the Paramount Plus streaming platform. I think that's the perfect way to do it, because right now Sony doesn't have their own platform. So Sony will have to team up with one of these streamers to do something and figure something out for their properties eventually. Because I don't think it's going to be in their best interest to start their own. Let's just say that Sony has just a bad track record of doing anything on their own like this. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but definitely not a good showing for Ghostbusters there. Already, you all know my thoughts. I didn't think it was that great of a movie, but there are people who loved it. So again, I'm happy that the fans are happy. But I think in order for the movie and the franchise to survive, it doesn't just have to appease to the fans. It has to appease to everybody, or a more generic and broad audience. And right now, it doesn't seem to be doing that. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Imperator Danny, Kung Fu Panda is fun to watch. They do it well. I haven't seen it. In fact, I don't think I've seen any of the Kung Fu Panda movies. You blew it! Yeah. If I did, I honestly don't remember. So maybe that's something I need to visit for the first time. You know, especially with how well it's doing. And I do hear people like you, Imperator, that say that it's fun. So maybe I owe it to myself to watch it. AKB, okay, I have to eat my hat for Kung Fu Panda. Didn't think 4 would keep it strong. Hey, sometimes you never know. Rumor in a Ghostbusters forum over the weekend was a release or continuation of the real Ghostbusters cartoon. I did read that too. Yes. I believe there was also that rumor sparked because there is this new streaming platform that's coming out. And I could be wrong. Is it Me TV or TV Me or something? Let me see here. There's this new platform that's supposedly coming out that is supposed to be your home for streaming like old school cartoons or something of the like. And I don't know if it's coming out here in the United States, but their main draw was that it's coming, that the real Ghostbusters was going to be a part of their lineup, right? So I think that's kind of what sparked the whole rumor mill about them possibly doing a continuation of the real Ghostbusters. If you've watched this last movie, it has a lot of real Ghostbusters feels to it. It really does. A lot of the tone felt like the real Ghostbusters. Even the way like they treated some of the ghost and the baddie at the end felt very real Ghostbusters. So I won't be surprised if this is something that they're toying around with in their minds. The thing is, where is it going to go? Are they going to do it as a movie or is they going to do it as a series? If they're doing it as a series, I think that's best for them to do it that way. But where will it stream? You know, where is it going to go? So it'll be really interesting to see if that comes into fruition, what's going to happen with it. But I'm all for it. Look, there's nothing wrong with more Ghostbusters. You know, I think at the end of the day, as long as it's entertaining and it's fun, then that's great. But the minute you start losing that fun aspect, then that's where I get worried. And the thing about Frozen Empire is that it had potential to be fun, at least for the most part. And I felt it lost some of that. So, haven't seen Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, I haven't. If you enjoy Jack Black's comedy, you'll like it. I do. I do like Jack Black's comedy. I also do like his voiceovers. I thought his voiceover of Bowser in the Super Mario Brothers movie was fantastic. I thought that was like the perfect casting for Bowser, especially with the type of humor they're trying to hit. So I thought that was great. So yeah, I guess I do owe it to myself to kind of watch it, right? Yeah, I should probably do that. Ghostbusters Frozen Dickless. Again, I cannot. Oh, wait. I think Frozen Empire comes out on digital this week. Hold on a second. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire digital release. No, it comes out digitally on the 21st. Okay. When it comes out on digital, I have to clip out that one moment in the movie. It kills me every time. It kills me every freaking time where they're trying to interview freaking Peck at the end of the movie, who's now the mayor, right? And in the back, you just hear someone from the crowd just screaming out, "Why don't you thank him, dickless?" Oh, best line in anything I've seen all year. MeTV is a cable channel, not streaming, that focuses on classic TV shows like Western Smash and Carol Burnett. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. See, again, it's hard for me to know that because I don't have cable anymore. So it's either Saturday morning program or a new classics tune channel. Ah, got it. Got it. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. I mean, I read things and not everything sometimes clicks, or I don't read enough of it. So I appreciate that additional research there. They have to have some sort of streaming presence, though, don't you think? With less and less people watching cable. I'm just looking it up. So they oh, interesting. So they have it looks like they have a team up with Warner Brothers. Bugs Bunny, let's see, and other Warner Brothers Discovery content to launch in June on MeTV Tunes. Huh. How about that? That is very interesting. Okay. I'm going to have to do more reading up on this because that would be fascinating. And I think, again, in this landscape, it behooves them not to have some sort of streaming platform presence, or at least attempt to it, right? But I guess that also doing that it's going to open up another floodgates of copyright stuff and license legalese and blah blah, all that crap. So we'll see. No, it's too many characters, some who don't belong. Are you talking about Ghostbusters? If you think about it, Walter Peck literally got shit on by the marshmallow. He sure did. He got a mouthful of it too. Imperator, what do you think of The Acolyte? I think it looks promising. People are already trashing it before release. Thoughts? People will trash anything they can trash. You're always going to have that hater fan base that will hate on stuff before it even comes out. When I reacted to the first trailer that came out, I remember people were already like dissing on it. I'm like, how do you know? It hasn't even come out yet. My thoughts is it does look promising. It looks interesting. I like the fact that we are going to like the old Republic era. I like that. I like that it's something that doesn't tie into the Skywalker saga, which is we need more of that. It'll be nice to kind of see the origins of the Sith and how that all comes about. My only concern is it going to end up becoming too hokey? You know, I was really stoked on the Book of Boba Fett before that came out. And then when it came out, I was like, what happened? What did we get? What happened? As I always like to say. And I was very disappointed at the end of the day. You know, when Obi-Wan was coming out, I was very stoked about it. And then what we got was like half of it was okay and half of it was like, huh? What are we doing here? You know, so I am cautiously optimistic for that series, if I'm going to be very honest. I think the cast they have is good. I am not so sure about the showrunner, who seems to have a passion for Star Wars, but also didn't like a lot of the stuff that Lucas did. So, kind of weird to have that stance, you know? And, you know, she is obviously also very, and I hate using this term, but she is very pro, you know, this and that. And, you know, people will call her woke and maybe she's a little bit too woke. That doesn't bother me at all. But I don't know if that's going to be something that overburdens the series as a whole. I think as long as the story is done well and it treats the lore and the canon and the ideas of Star Wars, if it treats all of that well, then I think it's going to be good. I also like, and I know there's a lot of criticisms of the fight scenes. I love the fact it does kind of remind me of old school Kung Fu fighting from the old school Kung Fu movies, you know, kind of you're like very much like your Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I know Star-Lord 7 is going to make fun of me about that. But I do like that. I do like that. So it's promising, like you said. I'm cautiously optimistic. I will be checking it out when it comes out. And of course, I will be leaving my thoughts here every week whenever a new episode comes out. How about you? Are you you seem to be you seem to be on a trying to be more on a positive side of it going into it. So I'm curious. And what did you think of all the recent series, like the Obi-Wan? Andor I loved, and I think universally everyone loved Andor. Book of Boba Fett. How do you feel about the treatment of Star Wars as far as Disney Plus series is concerned? Nothing wrong with Wire Kung Fu done right. I don't see woke. I see awakening. Nice one, Star-Lord. I would really love to see a series about Darth Bane and Sith from Thousands. Oh, I think a lot of us would love to see that, actually. I think if one thing that came out of the Tales of the Empire series, the animated shorts I talked about earlier, is that I would love to see them do more backstory of, characters from way back in the past. Everyone keeps talking about Bane. It would be awesome to see that. Revan is another one that gets brought up a lot. It'll be great to see more about that. There's this one other one. My mind is like a scramble this morning. But it'll be nice to see more of those origins. And not always the positive ones, not always centered around Jedi. Let's go dark. Let's go deep. Let's go into like the origins of more Sith, characters. I think that would be great. I think a lot of people would love to see that. Do they have the balls to do something like that? I don't know. But we'll see moving forward, right? Imperator, Mandalorian was great. Andor, excellent. Obi-Wan, very strange and nonsensical. Yeah, I agree. Him basically losing his powers because he works in a factory and tries to blend in. Right. Like all of a sudden, I didn't know Jedis have the ability to kind of just push their powers aside. AKB, you know what I'm going with there. Push their powers aside just to kind of blend in with everybody. Right. So, I have the balls to do something like that? What, to create an Empire-centric series? If I had the money, I would. If I worked for Lucasfilm and Disney, I would. I have the balls. I have the cojones. Hey, KB, I'm glad you got my reference. He pushed his powers aside to blend in with everybody. Yeah, I thought that was really weird, too. Also, the whole thing about Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, if they were so badass back then, what happened to them later? And don't give me that they're old and stuff like that. It looked like they didn't even put up a fight when the Empire came a knocking on their doors. I'm sorry. Also, I will say Mandalorian was great, but that last season, oh man, I was very 50-50 on, to be honest. Enough with the cameos. Yoda in Empire Strikes Back lifts the X-Wing out of the swamp for Luke, and he wasn't exactly practicing for 10 years. Right. Right. The thing is, the Force should always be there, right? And maybe instead of losing his powers, maybe he did something in a way that kind of convinced everybody around him that he's nothing special. I could see that being more along the lines of the Jedi powers, right? And that seems like that would be more in alignment of how Obi-Wan would treat things. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But here I am sitting here, and I do have the balls to make a Sith-centric series. Yeah, I know. I remember how Obi-Wan in A New Hope was. I get it. I get they're much older, but still. I mean, come on. At the very least, if they were so strategic, what happened to being strategic in their farm, in their little base, It looked like they just came out in front and say, "Oh, we don't know what you're talking about," and then they all got burnt to toast. So I don't know. But then again, they didn't show exactly what happened there. So maybe they did try to put up a fight and they were just overpowered. Who knows? I don't know. A masked Jedi mind trick. Yeah. That would have been more believable. And to be honest, again, that feels like that would be more in alignment with the Obi-Wan persona. I feel like he would have done something like that. Right? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. You blew it! I expected more of a behind-the-scene Obi-Wan sabotaging the Empire ever since he got until. That would have been cool to see. That would have definitely been cool to see. Instead, he's like a creepy guy who's just spying over a young boy. They broke a hip trying to get to a speeder. See, now if that's true, I want to see that. There should be a fan film with that particular scene. Like, oh no, we gotta run. Ah, my hip. Ah, ah. Do you play Kingdom Hearts? What's up, Fire? Thank you for chiming in. Not currently. I played the first one. I admit I am way behind on the Kingdom Hearts as a series, as a video game series. It's not that I don't like it. It's just one, at this point, there's too many of them. So if I wanted to go back, I would have to understand how to properly go back, right? And number two, these games are just way too long. And I'll give you a good example. And it's not that I have a short attention span. It's just I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to games these days. Case in point, I am playing Persona 3 Reload. It's my very first Persona game I played ever. And I've already clocked in over 200 hours of game time. And I'm at the point already, I want this damn thing to end. And I feel like I'm no longer enjoying the game. I feel like I'm playing just for the sake of completing and finishing the game. That's it. I'm already very close because I'm already in January. If you know the game, you know the calendar. So I know the light on the end of the tunnel is there. But it is such a slog for me to get to it. You know? And I don't like breezing through games. I like to understand the game. I like to understand the story. You know? So I do go through the storylines. I build the relationships. You know, I try to fuse as many personas as I can. So maybe I could have spent less time to go through the story. But what's the fun in that, right? I try to put in my all when playing a game. And right now, I'm just at that point where I'm like, I want this game to freaking end, man. I want to move on from here. Yeah, 200 hours, Persona. At the end of the year, I'm going to do a recap of all the games I play throughout the year. And I'll highlight that. I'll show you screenshots of how much hours I put into this game. It's insane. Insane. I like it. It for the most part, it feels like I'm just enjoying an anime series whenever I play it. Because there's a lot of narrative that I'm just watching. So, well, when you say it like that, creepy old man watch over young boy. That's what Obi-Wan was doing. Yeah, he was in a distance eating his bread and with his binoculars, and it's like, oh, there he is. He's okay. In a nutshell, it wasn't the same character as in the first three movies, just like Luke all of a sudden changed in the new trilogy. Not believable. Yeah, there's always like that drastic switch, right? And it felt like it was a little bit too drastic in this point. I forget how the years between the Obi-Wan series and A New Hope. Was it 10 years? 15? I forgot what the time frame was like. But it is kind of unbelievable to think that we got this Obi-Wan and then we get the Obi-Wan we got later on. You know? Just very similar to, like, we haven't seen Luke Skywalker in a very long time, right? And then when we got him, in the sequel movies. What happened? Like, what? I didn't felt it was justified for him to change so drastically like that. I get it. His school got demolished and his prize student went ape shit, to use that term again. I get it. It could cause anyone to lose faith in the force. But I felt that was just a little bit too, that was kind of like a disrespect to the character. You know. Imperator, I don't know, man. It feels like these new producers, directors haven't even watched the original movies. Or they did, but they have their own takeaways. I feel like there's definitely a lot of different takeaways everyone has from these movies. And I think what people are doing nowadays is that if they are attached to these movies, they're trying so hard to put their own spin on things, and it doesn't always resonate. That's why you hear all the time creative differences. This person was attached to this, now no longer is. This person attached to this, now there no longer is. The whole Kathleen Kennedy situation and these new directors, it's so bizarre to see the discourse between them all. It's kind of, no one has a good stranglehold on the series outside of Filoni. I think Filoni and Favreau, that team up there, I think they have a good sense of what's going on and what they want to show. But like I said before, Filoni is a little bit too much of a prequel fanboy, and I feel like he can't get out of that. AKB, yes, you are playing an anime series with the Persona series. That is both the draw and the curse. If you enjoy the full depth of the game, the series is amazing. You don't skip the rest. Yeah, like I said, I do enjoy it. I enjoy the story. I enjoy the characters. I do. I enjoy the chemistry they have between each other and all that. Should I have just sat down and watched the Persona series? Maybe. Instead of playing the game. Because I don't feel like I'm achieving much in the game. I'm progressing the story, yes. But I don't feel like, as far as challenges or as far as anything new is concerned, gameplay wise, I'm not experiencing anything that's like mind blowing. And I get it, it's an RPG. A lot of RPGs are like that. But I don't know. I get the draw though. I do get the draw. If you're a huge fan of anime, then these games are going to be your bag. I get it. I totally get it. And even though I'm saying a lot of this now, there's a part of me that does want to play Persona 4 and 5 eventually. But I think after I'm done with 3, I'm going to be taking a major break from the whole Persona series. Because I think a lot of my friends wanted me to start playing Persona 5 first. And I can only imagine how deep that game would have went with me. I probably would be just halfway done at this point. Luke lost his new hope and got an old one. The old hope. That should have been the subtitle for episode 7. Is it episode 7? No, episode 8. The old hope. The great old hope. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. But I'm enjoying these conversations, y'all. Again, thank you so much for chiming in. Really appreciate the conversation and the nice back and forth. And the support too. You guys are awesome. AKB Persona is like the Potter series in this anthology. Reading the books give way more lore versus watching the movies. Playing the games was way more lore than watching the anime. Okay. Again, that's also great if you are invested in the storyline. If you're invested in the thing as a whole, then I understand. You're going to want to do all that stuff, right? As for me, I don't know if I'm even that invested. Even after just spending 200 plus hours on this game. Like I said, after it's said and done, I will probably never come back to anything Persona 3 related. Now, Persona 4 and 5, I do want to play them eventually, but I don't even know at this point when that's going to happen because of that. So yeah. So, you know what? Why don't we Oh, I didn't even have this little. I forgot about my little thing here. I was so busy yapping away. So we already talked about the weekend box office. Let's talk about the latest headlines, shall we? Let's see. Imperator. If you look how Andor was made, it was serious, very little humor, and in the vein of Star Wars. So people will watch it without having 350 different diverse characters. All you need is a good story and solid script. Absolutely. Oh, that's with anything too. If we were to be honest here, I think the great thing that Andor had was a great writer, really, really great writer. They had a vision that they wanted to accomplish, and they have a goal, right? I think if you have that and you have great writing involved with characters that you care about at the end of the day, it's all about caring about the characters too. If you can develop the characters in a way that we are invested in them, then that's what hooks people. That's what creates great things to watch or read or any kind of media, right? I think with a lot of the movies that we've gotten, it's more about the spectacle. It's more about the in-your-face, grandiose effects and all that. I mean, and a lack of, I guess, planning, right? Because with the sequels, you had a lot of characters that were front and center that took back seats, moving on to additional movies. And then some they tried to bring back to the forefront, but it just didn't work anymore. You know, I felt bad for the Rose character because she was supposedly supposed to be like this love interest to Finn in the second sequel movie, and then she took a major back seat in the third. We hardly saw her on screen anymore, and we got like a major introduction to her in the second movie, right? With her sister dying and sacrificing herself and all that, and then she just like it's as if freaking J.J. Abrams came back and was like, you know what? I never liked this character. I don't know what Rian Johnson was trying to do with this character. So you're taking a backseat, mistress, and you're going to be friend zoned. You know? Oz Green in a hizzy. What did you miss? You missed everything. Go home. If you want to check out Oz, he does the What's Up Son podcast with the crew over at Double Toasted. A little plug for you. That whole Finn, Ray, and Rose thing was awful. Yeah, it was. Oh, and yeah, I didn't even bring up the whole, Finn and Ray situation. Was that supposed to be a romance? Was that supposed to be like a friendship? I don't know. Does he have the Force in him? I don't know. What was that thing at the last movie when they're sinking through the sand, and he's like, Ray, before we die, I got something to tell you. Blah, 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 blah. And then we never revisited that again. What was he gonna say? I've always loved you, or I'm strong in the Force too, or you have a great ass. Maybe that's what he wanted to say. I don't know. He wanted the Force in. Hey-oh. I thought in the first one they set up Finn to become a Jedi. True. But I guess that's sort of ignored and became a love interest. No idea what. Yeah. That's the thing. His whole arc was so confusing. And I feel like they teased so much that he was going to have the Force and he was going to have Force powers and all that. And literally they ripped that away from him. Very much like how Rey ripped the lightsaber away from him in that movie. Oh, man. And that leaves me to think, again, what are we going to get from this Rey movie they're working on? And I love the fan base and their love for Rey, the character. I think Daisy Ridley, she's the Riddler. You blew it! I think Daisy Ridley is a good actress. I've seen her in other things outside of Star Wars. You know, she doesn't deserve the hate that she's got from the movies. And I know there's a fan base that loves her character, but I don't know what they're planning to do with her in this new movie that they're working on. You know, and I don't know if I am going to end up caring, to be honest with you. And again, this is someone who is a major Star Wars fan like myself. And I'll watch it, but I am so curious and confused at the same time as to what they're trying to accomplish with this. You know, an older Rey. I guess she's supposed to be now with her own school, Jedi school. I don't know. We'll see what happens. You know, again, with Star Wars, it's very hit and miss. Some things they do I like, some things they do I don't like. But like I said from the very beginning when I started streaming today, the one thing I said always is that I may not like it, but there are going to be people within the fan base that do. And if they do, awesome. I'm happy for them. I don't have to like everything. You know, I'll always have what I have, and sometimes that's more than enough. Apparently, Dame Helen Mirren will play an older Rey. I like Helen Mirren. I think she's a fantastic actress. At the moment, the only good Star Wars movies are the originals. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I love Rogue One. I think Rogue One is a good movie. I also, I will say this. This is a hot take. I think Solo is a good movie, but it didn't have to be a Star Wars movie. If Solo was its own independent sci-fi movie, then I think more people will appreciate that movie more. But as a Star Wars movie, eh. I watched the first 6 over the weekend with my... Nice. Good for you. You had an amazing Star Wars Day weekend then. That's awesome. Did you go to the theaters to watch The Phantom Menace? I'm just curious. Were you one of the contributors to the $8 million it made this past weekend, which is crazy? Solo was good. Rogue One was better. Yep. I totally agree with that. You'll get no arguments with me on that one. Oh, you're in Australia. Oh. Oh, that's too bad. They should have shown it there. I thought this was like an international thing. I guess this is only here domestic in the US. Okay. Well, thank you for watching from Australia. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. But regardless, you had an amazing Star Wars weekend. That's awesome. Now, I have a question. You watched the original 6. Is there any reason why you didn't watch the new 3? Or was time a factor? I'm just curious. And in 4K. That's awesome. That's great. No interest in the new 3. I thought so. Yeah. Why is there a picture of Luke drinking alien boob juice? Yes, blue milk. So that is, if you missed my stream on Saturday, I spent some time during the stream and I made my own blue milk to celebrate Star Wars Day. So that was just tie in the whole blue milk situation. Time was also a factor. It's okay. You could be honest. Even if time wasn't, I'm pretty sure you would still kind of pass those, right? Which is a shame. I will say this, though. With the sequels, there were things from each of the movies that I liked. You know? The Force Awakens, obviously, I loved seeing Han Solo back with Chewbacca. That was fun. Was it the next one? Which one is the one where they had this amazing scene where the ship went into hyperspace and kind of blew up the Armada ship? And that was like a last-ditch effort to get these people to safety. That whole effects scene and the sound was brilliant, man. That was like the coolest thing I've seen as far as like Star Wars space scenes. That was really cool. And then in the last one, I loved seeing all the ships come together. And then you saw Wedge Antilles come back. You saw the ghost ship from Rebels. As a fan, that was fun to see. You know? So each thing has its moments for me, but as a whole, each movie was also extremely disappointing. Can't blame him for enjoying good livestock. Hell yeah. Oh, and he loved it too. That face he made, it's like, give me that milk. Drink that milk. Yeah. So there you go. Good Star Wars conversations. Love it. Love it. Those last three blew the chance to have. Yep. That was the biggest mistake that they made with the biggest mistake that ruined that whole new trilogy was not having Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill on the screen at the same time together and interact together. They really blew it. And I think they thought they would still have a chance to do that. Then when Carrie Fisher passed away, that made it even worse for them. But I think they just didn't have it laid out and written out that they were all going to be together immediately. You know, the first movie out of the gate, we should have had that moment. You know, at least something similar to that moment. Even if it's at the end, right? Do it at the end. Kill off Solo in the second movie, right? Which could lead to Luke maybe being more depressed, disheartened, right? And Leia can't do much because she is, you know, she's in the position she's in. So she's just strategizing. I don't know. I don't work in Hollywood. They don't pay me for that shit. How do you think it makes coffee taste? Best part of waking up is blue milk in your cup. What the fuck is that in your cup? Let's see, blue milk. Well, the thing is, the way I made my blue milk was obviously it's food dye, right? I use food coloring, but I use vanilla extract to kind of give it a little sweet taste. So in a way, it's almost like, I guess it would be similar to using creamer. I said creamer.
You blew it! I'm gonna come.
Pity though, I read the books after Return of the Jedi. They had some fantastic material. Oh, are you talking about the Timothy Zahn books? Oh, don't get me started on those, because those were essential reading for Star Wars back in the day. Oh, greatest story still I have is I was at Star Wars Celebration, my first very Star Wars celebration I went to. And I found out last minute that Timothy Zahn was going to be there. Author of the Thrawn series, the whole dark, I forgot what you call it, Dark Forces series or whatever you call it. And I brought my original copy of Heir to the Empire. I got it as one of those book clubs. You know how they mail you things and all that? I even had like a nameplate on it with my name on it. This book belongs to blah, blah, blah. And I was able to meet him. I said, hey, this stories have been the best. You know, really kept my fandom of Star Wars going. And this is my original book. As you can see, it's a little different. I even still have my original nameplate on it. And he was laughing. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. So I had him sign it and all that. And one of the best moments I had, I guess, as a fan of Star Wars. And that is a great series. Great series. Crazy stuff happened in there. That's how we got introduced to the Jedi twins. Poor Chewbacca got killed by a moon. Crazy stuff. Mara Jade. It'd be interesting to see if they ever bring her into the live action. Mr. Green agreed. That and his fool throwing the lightsaber away. I think in a way that kind of felt like that was like a hidden message about fuck this shit. Fuck this series. I'm so done with this. Or that's like a lot of the fans, how they felt after watching that movie. Yeah. That was just a very disrespectful moment. You know, everyone was clamoring to see Luke back on the screen. You know, we always had this vision in our heads about an older Luke, like an aged Luke, a Jedi Master Luke like that. Very akin to like Obi-Wan. And here he is, all curmudgeon, not giving a shit, throwing the damn thing away. All right, Star-Lord, that's an interesting way to look at it. He didn't throw it away. He tried to hide it from her. Maybe there's like to prevent her from digging in too deep. I see. Now, I never thought of it that way. And if we're going to look at it that way, that's interesting. They're doing something with Thrawn in Ahsoka, so I guess we might get something. I love the treatment of Thrawn so far. I do love the treatment of Thrawn so far that we got in Ahsoka. And it definitely does look like we're going to get more of him with the season 2 of Ahsoka, whenever that comes out. Again, he showed up in the Tales of the Empire, which was great. I still think, though, we need an origin. We need some sort of origin from him. Or maybe I'm speaking out of term. Maybe I'm speaking against what I always say. Maybe we don't need an origin. Maybe just keep him mysterious. That's kind of what ruined Boba Fett, right? How we gave too much of a backstory for this guy. So maybe just leave it as a mystery. But his backstory is interesting, though. That's the thing. If we were to base it off of what Timothy Zahn wrote in the books. But if they were to do it on their own, I don't know. Maybe just leave it alone. I love this. I love how this morning turned into Star Wars talk. It's great. Welcome to Star Wars Talk. I am your host, Renee Zalata. Star Wars Talk. Talking about Star Wars. Star Wars in your ass.
I'm gonna come.
And again, I love the conversation, guys. Keep it flowing. It's fantastic. And again, I always appreciate the support. Before we move on to more Star Wars stuff, I do have to say this. With special guest George Lucas, thank you. Thank you for inviting me onto your little program here on the internet. What are we talking about? Oh, Star Wars? Fuck that shit. I'm so tired. Don't fucking ask me anymore about Star Wars. I sold it to Disney for a reason. I don't want to think about it. You can all suck my dick. You love the prequels now? Oh, where were you back then? Where were you when, when I was trying to promote this shit? Huh, you motherfuckers? Huh? Yeah? All you are adults now who grew up with it? Yeah? What about Ahmed Best? You owe him a fucking apology the way you treated him back in the day. Yeah? Oh, you love Hayden Christensen now? Oh, yeah? Fuck off.
Fuck off!
Thanks, George. Appreciate your hot takes there. Thanks. Be careful. Don't break your hip. All right. Again, he'll show up if you want him to. All you have to do is say the words. But I should mention this. Over the weekend, it was announced that we lost a very famous actor. Again, as someone who is a fan of Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson movies, It was sad to hear about the passing of Bernard Hill. Bernard Hill, of course, is known for many other roles too. I do remember him as the captain from Titanic, the stubborn captain that didn't want to believe in anything. But he passed away at the age of 79 over the weekend. I'm here on the Hollywood Reporter here. Bernard Hill, known to audiences as Titanic's Captain Edward Smith in James Cameron's 1997 film, and King Theoden in The Lord of the Rings, has died. He was 79. Hill died in the early hours of Sunday morning. Statement from his family said no cause was given. His fiancee, Allison, wow, this guy at his age still hooking up. Good for him. And his son, Gabriel, were at his side. Hill's breakout role occurred on the BBC miniseries Boys from the Black Stuff, in which he portrayed Yoser Hughes, a man struggling with unemployment in Liverpool, whose "giz a job" catchphrase was known across England. The show aired in 1983 and won a BAFTA for Best Drama Series that year. Hill appeared consistently in television and film, roles in 1976's I, Claudius, 82's Gandhi, 99's Clint Eastwood's film True Crime, 99's A Midsummer's Night's Dream, 2002's The Scorpion King, and 2008's Tom Cruise's film Valkyrie. 97, Hill gained fans as the soft-spoken Captain Smith in Titanic, which won 11 Oscars, and in 2002, he joined Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings franchise as King Theoden Rohirrim for the second film, The Two Towers, later returning for Return of the King, which also picked up 11 Oscars as such. Hill held roles in 2 of the 3 films with the most Academy Awards of all time. So yeah, unfortunate to hear about this passing. 79 these days is considered extremely young. So it's kind of sad to see that, to hear about that. But, you know, he definitely left a legacy for us. And again, King Theoden, what a character he was. Yeah, again, stubborn, didn't want to believe the rumors, the hype. Like, we are the Rohirrim. We're not going to bend the knee. Our forces will not be destroyed. I got the perfect plan. Go over to Helm's Deep. We'll hold the line. Wrong. He ate a giant helping of humble pie that day. But he made up for it in Return of the King, returning with his army. And of course, his daughter, being the badass that she is. You know, great character study too, in that film, in those movies. But very, very great actor to portray that. So, you know, unfortunate to hear about it, but like I said, he will live forever in celluloid. Imperator, yeah, watching Lord of the Ring trilogy in his honor next. Nice, very cool. I don't know if they're, again, you're in Australia, so I hope they do this for you over there. But later this year, they're re-releasing the extended cuts of The Lord of the Rings into theaters, fully remastered. Because I guess you could expect probably another Blu-ray release for these movies coming out. But I think I'm going to do that because they're going to release it for 3 days. Each day will be a movie. So for 3 days in a row, you will get to watch it in theaters again. I think I'm going to do that. And that'll be my nice little tribute to Bernard Hill there. It'll be nice to it'll be nice to just see those movies in the big screen again. And honestly, to see how it holds up on the big screen. Yeah, that was him in Lord of the Rings. I know, yeah, fiance, yeah. King Theoden. Yeah, great character. Yeah, I only watched the extended release. Yeah. It's kind of hard to go back, especially once the minute you're introduced to all the extra footage, it's hard to go back to the theatrical cuts. Because there really is, it is a time commitment though. It really is. But the theatrical cuts, it's so different to go back to that. After seeing it. Now, if you've only seen the theatrical cuts, then I can understand why you would still watch it. But as someone who watched all the extended versions, that's the only version that I know to watch Lord of the Rings in. And it's kind of funny too to talk about the extended versions with those who've never seen the extended versions and only seen the theatrical versions, because you'll mention some things and they'll be like, wait a minute, I don't remember seeing that. That's because you didn't watch the extended versions. And then when they hear how long it is, they're like, oh, there's no way I'm going to watch that. And I don't blame them. Look, it's a huge time commitment. It really is. I get it. So, let's see. I am now perusing just through some of the little story tidbits. Oh, you know what? I did want to talk about this, and I'm going to veer a little bit away from movies and all that. Let's talk about something video game related, because we were talking video games before. We were. And this is something that is definitely, I hold dear to my heart, because I'm enjoying this along with my Persona 3 Reload playthrough. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up this article that I read this morning. Just give me one moment. Let me play some internet browsing music. Surfing the web, looking up stuff, doing some research. There's an article I'm looking for. Where is it? Where is it? I gotta find where it is. Right, I think I found it. Thank you for bearing with me as I do some internet research there. Hopefully I didn't lose any of you during the process. Oz nailed it. It is based on a game that we are enjoying currently right now, and the game is Helldivers. And I'm sure a lot of you who follow game news have been made aware of this crazy stuff that's happening right now with this game. So, some backstory here. Helldivers came out about 2 months ago, roughly 2 months ago, right? It is one of the first games that Sony put out there that saw not only a release on its console, but also saw a PC release through Steam, right? And immediately that first week, the game blew up like gangbusters. People were playing it. People were going nuts over it. I fell in love with the game. A lot of my friends who are here right now love the game as well. Our team name, we call ourselves the Dumpster Divers because we are sometimes a hot mess. But we have fun with it, right? And, you know, for the longest time, and I'm playing it on the PS5. A lot of us are playing on the PS5. We do have one friend who's playing it on PC. And apparently the story behind all of this is that when they released the game out on PC, they turned off this necessity, this need, in order for people to link their accounts to the PSN network, which apparently was a requirement from Sony. But the developers, Arrowhead Studios, that's the developers, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. They turned off that functionality because they wanted to allow more people to play the game. And I think it was also causing some bugs that they wanted to avoid. And I think they forgot about it, to be honest with you. And I feel like Sony kind of like said, hey, you ever going to turn that thing on? And they were probably like, oh shit, you're right. Our bad. Let's turn it on now. And this caused a shitstorm once this happened. So, long story short, in order to play the game on PC, you have to have a current existing PSN account that you have to link to your Helldivers 2 instance. Without it, you are not allowed to play Helldivers 2. Now, I can kind of understand why you need that on a console because On the Sony PlayStation consoles, you cannot really play multiplayer online without having a PSN account. That's a requirement. I get it. Okay. But if you're playing on PC and you're playing on Steam, anything on PC is usually open-ended. You don't have to necessarily always tie your games to any account. You look at Microsoft, they don't require you to have an Xbox Live account, right? You can just play it however you want to play it on your PC, especially if you're on Steam. But now they are asking everyone to have an open and active PSN account that you have to link your Helldivers 2 to, which caused a shitstorm. You had the internet, especially the community on Steam, downrating the game because of this. You had people asking for refunds well after the fact, because Steam has this refund policy that you're allowed to ask for refunds within the first 2 hours of a game being played. A lot of people have way over 100 hours and they're asking for refunds, and most of them got it, actually. But because of this, you have now Steam pulling the game from 170 countries, over 170 countries, because these countries do not have PSN access. You cannot have an account. You cannot have a PSN account in these countries because it doesn't exist or it's not allowed, right? So if you're in any of these countries and you bought the game, now you can play it. Because the minute you try to log in, it tells you, please connect your PSN account. And if you can't, then you can't go further, right? So now this morning, it sounds like Sony is backing down. And they should, because this was a major fuck up on their part. And it goes to show you again that Sony does not know how to handle anything new to them, or anything that they feel they need to have control over, because this is what it all is. They want control. They want to be able to control their players. You know, they want to be able to track their players. They want to be able to convince them maybe to sign up for a premium account, or hey, come over to the PlayStation console and all that. They are so new to the PC market that this was a huge mistake for them to do. You know, so let's just recap the series of events here that happened. So Helldivers 2 pulled from Steam in 170 countries without PSN access, while Valve ignores its own policy to issue refunds for players with over 100 hours. Steam only issues refunds for players in less than 2 hours of playtime in-game normally. Let me just make sure this is big so everyone can see it. All right. The Helldivers 2 debacle has reached new hellish lows, as this year's best-selling game is now unavailable on Steam in over 170 countries. Earlier this week, publisher Sony announced that all Helldivers 2 PC players would soon need to link an active PlayStation Network account or lose access to the game, a mandate that was once a simple option at launch and has since led to thousands of negative user reviews hitting the once widely popular shooter. I think that's one of the things that hurts most about this too, is that this game is so popular. A lot of people were already saying that this is one of the best games of the year. And now to have it hit with this major controversy is such a shame. I feel bad for the developer in this case, because this is all Sony's doing. A Helldivers 2 community manager just yesterday assured that people in countries without PSN coverage could continue playing the game and wouldn't be blocked. But now, Helldivers 2 has been pulled from more than 170 territories lacking PSN coverage, according to listings from Steam database. While some global players won't be able to join the fight and buy the game, it's unclear if existing Helldivers 2 owners will be able to continue playing if they live in unsupported regions. I wonder, I'm so curious, between that time and now, how many people signed up for a VPN service? Because that's one of the easy ways to work around all of that stuff. Either Either way, it was a massive blow to Helldivers 2, a game that became one of Sony's all-time best-selling sellers thanks to the PC version, and it raises questions about why a game was available in those territories to begin with, especially if the PSN mandate was always planned, as Sony said in the announcement note. Ignoring its own policies, Steam stewards Valve have also reportedly been issuing refunds to several long-time Helldivers that have logged into Super Earth space for more than 100 hours. Steam policy normally doesn't allow for refunds if a player exceeds 2 hours in-game.
With up to 40 grams of
Whoa,
protein,
hello.
muscle milk helps.
Shut up. Fucking ad. Anyways, Steam, blah, blah, blah. Helldivers 2 developer recently reiterated that the PSN change came from Sony, not the talented team at Arrowhead Studios, so issuing refunds is probably the most effective route to getting a message across as opposed to shouting toxicity at devs. Sony also announced the mandate on a Friday and thus has yet to officially respond to the backlash that was escalated pretty wildly in just a few days. So this was the news as of Friday of last week. Okay. Fast forward to Monday morning. Here you go. Sony backs down on demand and all that. Real quick, Imperator, that's wrong. It should be optional for PC. Totally agree. 1000% agree on that. AKB, glad Sony backed down this time. They've been making questionable moves the past few weeks. Major Sony F up. This hurt Arrowhead Studios by proxy. 1000% there too. Again, Sony is... They are in a territory that they're so unfamiliar with that they are making very bad moves and bad decisions. And I don't know if it's out of desperation. I don't know if it's out of the need to hit quotas for their PSN network. There's just a lot of things here that is so questionable. And I've been accused many times of being a Sony hater. I'm not. But I will talk about it when they do bad things. And unfortunately, they have done a lot of bad things. The way they've treated their PSP device, you know, the Vita, the way they treat anything new, and how they will quietly kind of sunset it or stop supporting it. I guarantee you, the next thing that's going to go away is the whole VR thing. There's so much lack of support for that thing. And I would even say lack of enthusiasm around it. Because the Quest is killing it in the market right now. You know? And the only reason why they're moving to, or they're pushing for more PC releases is because they realize that that's an untapped market that's working for everybody except for them. Because they haven't done it yet. There's a whole fan base of gamers that are dying to play Sony games, but they don't necessarily want to buy a Sony console. Right? It's a whole different beast of gamers in the PC world. And the worst thing to do is to piss off that world, because they will fight back in droves, and they saw it this past weekend. You know, console gamers is one thing. The fan base for consoles is one thing. But the PC gamers out there, you piss them off, you lose them forever, for the most part. Imperator, if you don't release a game on multi-platforms these days, you're missing out. Absolutely. Like, I don't have an Xbox or PlayStation anymore, but we'll play. Absolutely. That's why, you know, Microsoft has slowly been doing that for a while now. You know, they realize the importance of going multi-platform. The whole console exclusive stuff these days is not really a major thing, or it's treated very differently now. Like, I totally will stand behind the idea and concept that we'll make this a console exclusive for like 6 months or whatever, and then eventually you'll get to see it on everywhere else, right? Because you have to also allow time for development for the different platforms and all. Microsoft, it's a little bit easier because they use kind of the same architect that, you know, you could easily transform games on the PC market for. Sony, different story. And Nintendo doesn't give a shit because no matter what they do, they always do well. So they're not missing out much on anything, really. They're fine the way they are. Should they reconsider? I don't know about that. Talk about Control. That's a company that has way too much problems with Control over their stuff. So going the PC route will never be an option for them because they will lose that control, and they know it. You know. But let's read here the update from Sony on Sony's side. Sony backs down on demand that Helldivers 2 players log onto a PS2 account. What a wild ride. That is to say the least. A few days ago, Sony posted a message on Steam noting that due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. The grace period will now expire. That went down well with PC players who were delighted to be allowed to hand over their personal details to Sony. No, wait, that's not what happened. They dropped over 200,000 negative reviews on Helldivers 2, leading to an apology from developer Arrowhead's CEO. While some other complaints on social media have edged over into tantrum territory, there is valid issue behind the uproar. Not every country can access the PlayStation Network, and Helldivers 2 ended up being pulled from sale in 177 countries and territories that could previously buy the game and play it without worry. Now, after 3 days of pure shitstorm, Sony has blinked. In a tweet, let's look at this tweet. I'm going to open it up right here. Let's read the tweet. And mind you, I've come from corporate America, so I can tell when certain things are done intentionally. So let's read this. Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. We're still learning what is best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on future plans. The tone here and what they really are saying here is like, we fucked up. We don't want you to leave. We're sorry. Trust us, we won't do this again. Please come back. Stop leaving negative reviews. Please buy our game again. We're new to all this. Or we knew what we were doing. It just didn't work out the way it should have. Or we were hoping it. So I think they just realized that they fucked up. And they want to do good by the players. They don't want to lose the PC players. Like I said before, you piss them off big time, they'll never come back. They want them to come back, obviously. So this is them swallowing a huge heaping of humble pie. Like, we fucked up. Arrowhead CEO Johan Pilstate replied to say, firstly, I'm impressed by the willpower of the Helldivers 2 community and your ability to collaborate. Secondly, I want to thank our partners and friends at PlayStation for quickly and effectively making the decision to leave PSN linking optional. We together want to set a new standard for what a live game is and how developers and community can support each other to create the best game experiences. So, I think the big question is here. Will these players who left, will they come back? I think with any situation, just like any fan base that experienced something bad and you have said creator apologizing for something, you will get people coming back. But not everyone's going to come back. I think you've lost the faith in a lot of the gamers. They will be happy, or they should be happy, if at least half of them come back. But this is just not how you handle business. This is not how you handle something, regardless of how new you are to the territory. You should have had someone telling you or whispering in your ear, don't do that. You're going to piss people off. PC gamers are rabid. But Sony, chin held high, nose up in the air, the company that they are, said, our shit don't stink. We have a major fan base. We can do this. Watch. It'll be great. Wrong. I just hope Arrowhead doesn't get too much repercussion out of all this because they don't deserve it. In my opinion, they've created a fun game that I haven't had so much fun playing online with my friends in a very long time. I, for many years, have been looking for some sort of replacement for Destiny. I loved playing Destiny with my friends. I enjoyed it. But after a while, it just got too tiring. It no longer became fun. And it no longer meant anything to me. And I just quit. And I didn't look back. But for ever since then, I've been looking for a time to have that again with my friends. And Helldivers 2 proved to be that. Plus, they don't force upon you to have to purchase anything in game. They don't force upon you that you have to, in order to achieve or excel, you have to be at this level or you have to have these weapons and all that. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You could still enjoy the game as equally as everybody else. But you all work together as a conglomerate to achieve certain actions, certain mandates within the game, within the world, within the universe. So it really is encouraging the gamers in the community to team up together and accomplish something, however way they accomplish it. But at the end of the day, it's just a fun time with my friends playing online. And I love it. So Arrowhead should not be the one to get shrapnel from all this. I hope not. You know, and Sony needs to freaking get with it and learn. Because, like AKB said earlier, they've made a lot of weird and questionable choices lately. And they need some consulting. Big time. And this is a huge learning lesson to them. And I think moving forward, they need to understand that if they are to continue going multi-platform and releasing their titles on PC, give up with the idea of hoping and expecting everyone will sign in with their PSN account. It's not necessary. It's not needed. All right. I'm sorry if I missed some chats. Let me just catch up here. Should have given an optional incentive to make signing up for PSN tantalizing for PC users. Yeah, if they were going to do that, do something like, hey, whatchamacallit, sign up for a PSN account and get X amount of dollars off for a year, or sign up for a year for a certain amount, blah, blah, blah. Get a free download, something like that, right? They should have done something like that. Imagine being Arrowhead on top of the world 2 months ago, then Sony screws them. Yeah, I know. People spend more money on PC games than they do. Absolutely. That's, like I said, major fan base. Major fan base. You don't want to upset these guys, these people. Because the minute you do, like I said before, you're going to lose them forever. AKB agreed. Unfortunately, the damage is done. I'll give you $1 if more than 50% of the sales in the lost return within a month. Cue the Price is Right loose tier. Starlord 7. Poor Sony. First Madam Web, now this. Yeah. I'll buy that for $1. Now that's the game I need to play. I need to play that new RoboCop game. I've been hearing good stuff about it, and from what I've seen, it looks fantastic. I need to play that game. Damn it. But yeah. So that was like major news. I mean, I don't like talking about, stuff like this. Well, no, let me correct myself. I do like talking about stuff like this because it's just fascinating to go into the minds of companies and why they make certain decisions and what they do and all that. But Sony, this was major fuck up. I couldn't believe it. When I first heard about it last week, I remember laughing. I was like, oh, that's so stupid. And then seeing the blowout from it, I was like, man, see, again, this is what happens when you piss off a community. And this was not, if you look on the movie side of, I'm sorry, you Mike. Oh, I didn't mean to hurt you. When you look on the movie side of things, when you have people review bombing a movie even before it comes out, that's different. That's just toxic fan base there. They haven't even seen the movie. How do they know how good the movie is? Why? Because they question something that is in the movie. Like, I hate that. I can't stand that. What we saw here is very different. This is the community speaking up with their actions on a decision that a company made that they don't agree with. Downvoting a game, asking for refunds. That's how you hurt a company when you don't like what they're doing. You hurt them with your wallets or not spending, right? If you don't like a movie, don't watch it. If you're not interested in a movie, don't watch it, right? It's kind of hard to say that now because not everyone's watching movies anymore in the theaters, right? But when it comes to stuff like this, that's how, as a community, you could speak up. And you forced Sony's hand. You had to make them address it, right? And I'm glad the community did. And kudos to Valve, too, for issuing the refunds, going against their policy. That's fantastic. Because Valve is smart. They know they can't lose their community either. So they, and I'm sure they even went to Sony themselves and they're like, you guys suck. We now had to give up this. We had to refund all this money because of your fuck up. Who's to say that behind the scenes they didn't say something along the lines where, because of this, we don't want to work with you anymore. They could say that if they wanted to. It won't be smart for them because they, obviously they want to be the hub of all things PC gaming. They want everyone coming to them. Like it's hard when you have Epic with their own service, you have COG with their own service, or not COG, GOC, right? Or GOG, whatever it is. Like it's hard to keep up. Amazon with its own thing. It's hard to keep up with all this. That's why I like Steam, because it's all in one spot there. I don't see Sony creating their own hub. And I'm sure if they did, they probably fuck it up too, just like what they did with the PlayStation Premium stuff right now and the PlayStation TV and the network and all that shit. They'll find a way to mess it up because they just don't know. So, yeah. AKB, Valve was the surprise MVP here. Star-Lord, they can't make me hate something because they hate it. Absolutely. But they try. They really try. Yeah. But it is what it is. So that was like the one major piece of news that I really wanted to talk about and cover this morning because it was fascinating. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff to talk about. But I'm already, approaching almost 2.5 hours. It's already 1:20 p.m. here on the East Coast. So I think I'm going to call it a morning. I'll call it a day. Guys, I have to say, I love Star-Lord Try My Ass.
I'm gonna come.
I'm glad you paused, because I was going to question your motives behind that.
You blew it!
But anyway, I enjoyed the conversations this morning. Thank you. Huge shout out to AKB, Star-Lord, Imperator Danny, Oz Green. From earlier in the stream, we had, sorry, I'm scrolling back up, RIP, Nelly Ray, who chimed in very briefly. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining in on the conversation this morning. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks again for the major support. I also very much appreciate that as well. Don't forget, like, subscribe if you haven't done so, dislike, whatever the case is. But, oh, you know what? Let me close this out. Please enjoy the rest of your Monday. I hope your week starts off brilliantly. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will be back live on Wednesday, but wait, hold on a second. Not at 7 p.m. because guess what? There is an early screening of the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes that I'm going to go check out. So I will go live just like I did last week around 10:30, 11 p.m. after I come back from that screening, and I am going to talk about that movie, give my thoughts, and review about it all. So tune in then. If you can't make it then, I will be back again on Friday in the morning, hopefully at 10 a.m. Eastern time, to talk about all the stuff that happened in the past week and all that stuff. So until then, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Catch you all in the flip side. Peace out, y'all. Bye-bye.